having a little bit of technical difficulty, so please bear with us. Just to repeat, just in case you just saw this, I am here with Andrea Young as Executive Director of the ACLU, the Georgia ACLU, and we're talking about the marijuana legislation that passed on Monday, and it changes the ordinance in Atlanta, and it makes some changes to where the penalties surrounding small amounts of marijuana possession. So, Ms. Young, could you talk to me a little bit about what those changes were?
So, one, it's really important to say that citizen engagement matters. And so this is an example that when people get involved, when people make their voices heard, things can change. And this is a wonderful example of that. And so there are many people and organizations who make this happen. What the city of Atlanta has passed an ordinance to reduce and reclassify the fines for marijuana so that if for possession of less than an ounce of marijuana, you can no longer go to jail. Marijuana is not legal in the city of Atlanta. And this ordinance only applies to being within the city of Atlanta. So you have to, there's sometimes it's very clear we're in downtown Atlanta, we know we're in Atlanta. But sometimes you might be in South Fulton, you may not be in Atlanta anymore. So you have to be clear that you're in the city of Atlanta. And so it's a bit like running a stop sign. It's like, so this is not legal. It's not lawful behavior in the city of Atlanta, but the penalties for it have been reduced in a very important way. That people will get a ticket and a maximum $75 fine, and cannot be sentenced to jail if it's less than an ounce. Now this is a small amount. It's a small amount. But it's a very important step. And what we found and what many people were responding to is that most of the people who have been getting arrested for marijuana possession are African American. So this has fallen disproportionately on our community. It's been devastating for many of our young people who have lost scholarships or gotten, felonies on their record because of the possession of very small amounts.
And they couldn't get jobs. A lot of those couldn't get jobs because they said, hey, I had to fill in that little box that says, yes, I have been arrested. And they might say, what were you arrested for? Well, I had possession of a joint. And a lot of folks felt that was a horrible way to not let someone have a job because they had possession of a joint.
And all around the country, these laws are enforced in a racially discriminatory manner. So Atlanta's no different. But Atlanta is a home of the civil rights movement, and we expect Atlanta to do better. We expect Atlanta to set an example for fairer treatment of its citizens. And so this is an important first step. It is not decriminalization. It's still unlawful to possess marijuana in the city of Atlanta.
And that is something to re-emphasize as much as possible, that it is not legal. This does not change that. So unlike other states that, I think there are 6 states right now that have legalized marijuana possession. Georgia, the city of Atlanta, and no municipality in the state of Georgia has done that. So it is still illegal. But we have to emphasize that possession is still illegal. It's just that the penalties for small amounts have changed.
And so this is a campaign season, and we think that was one of the reasons that a number of people on the city council are running for mayor, that people are running for higher office. And so I think it's one reason people were responsive to the citizen concern over this. But the same thing is going to be true next year going into the governor's race, is that people who are concerned about how these laws have been used to disproportionately impact the African American community in so many different ways, continue to raise this issue, statewide. That these penalties for marijuana use are excessive, and many changes can be made and should be made.
I just wanted to reiterate, if you're just joining us, I'm Leon Stafford. I am the mayor of the City of Atlanta reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and I'm joined here today by Andrea Young, and she is the of Georgia, and we're talking about recent legislation that was passed by the City of Atlanta's City Council in a 15-0 unanimous vote that allowed the fines and penalties on the possession of small amounts of marijuana, which is an ounce or less. That changed from the penalty used to be up to $1,000 if you were caught. Today, that has changed to up to $75 if you're caught on, again, an ounce or less of marijuana. And jail time, which had been up to 6 months, is now no jail time at all. And that is a change that the City Council passed. It has not been signed by Mayor Kasim Reed yet, but he has said that he will review it and he will sign it. So, could you also talk to me a little bit about the state laws and how there is some conflict, because the state laws are still the laws that have governed much of what we just said. It's still $1,000 for an ounce or less if you're caught by a state, and you still can't serve jail time. So there is some challenge that if a Georgia patrol officer catches you and then that law supersedes the City of Atlanta's law, and there's some conversation that has to be had, I guess, between municipalities about that.
Well, one of the things, and this is why, again, citizen participation, citizen action is so important. Going into the legislative session in January, there are bills to address this at the state level and to reduce, again, the penalties for marijuana possession at the state level. And so this will be a very important conversation, and we need to make the voices heard to help us bring about this change.
And that same conversation has to be had at the colleges, because the colleges are enforced in a different way. They have their own police departments, their own rules also.
And we would hope that the colleges within the city would follow the City of Atlanta rules and not charge people under the state law. That is, and so there was the concern about commuting. But the important choice is to say we need to move towards a more sensible approach to marijuana use, and how all of these issues are treated more as health issues rather than criminal justice issues. The City of Atlanta is doing important things in terms of pretrial diversion. And so we want to encourage that kind of movement. And so in the meantime, it does create some dissension, but we feel that Atlanta can set an example, and as it is successful in Atlanta, it will encourage more municipalities and eventually the state to follow suit.
Can you talk to us a little bit about pretrial diversion? Because I think a lot of people probably would be interested in that and don't know a lot about that. And that's an important thing, because it just launched this week, right?
Yeah.
Right.
There is pretrial diversion. There are also drug courts that the state has supported. And so, there are alternate approaches. One of the most important things you can say is, I would like a lawyer.
Okay, right.
So if you find yourself in a situation where you're being stopped by the police, don't argue, just ask for an attorney.
Right.
And you do have the right to an attorney. And because there are so many different ways that these things can be resolved, and people with attorneys get better results. And we're working very much on making more of the best practices more common and more routine. But in the meantime, your best option for a good result and for justice is to ask for it.
So we have some questions from Facebook Live here.
So William is telling me we have some questions. So shoot.
So first, how many times can you get caught with less than an ounce and still not go to jail?
As it is stated right now, with less than an ounce, it is a ticket, it is a fine. However, under state law, if you have more than an ounce, then after the people who are caught in the city of Atlanta with very small amounts. But marijuana is not legal, and if you are caught with more than an ounce of marijuana, multiple times, it can result in a mandatory 10-year penalty.
All right, and what are the reactions from the police force about the new ordinance?
Yes, that's a good question. Chief Erica Shields came to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution on Tuesday to our editorial board meeting, and she talked a little bit about that. She said that one of the things that she is trying to do is to talk to the police and say, listen, I am not interested in you trying to improve our numbers by arresting lots and lots of people on marijuana charges. What I'm most interested in is getting guns off the street and getting more violent criminals off the street. She said, I don't want to see a whole bunch of people arrested for small bags of marijuana. I'm not interested in that because that's not where we need to be as a city. Now, that is the instruction she said that she is giving to her officers. But I think this is one of those things that she said there's going to have to be education. There's going to have to be buy-in from all the officers. It's going to have to be buy-in from city halls. It's going to have to be buy-in from the courts. So everybody in general has to be on the same page. And that's one of the things that I think that education, there's education for the public, and there's also education for public officials on this, because this is a change, and it's like any change, it's going to take some time.
And I think that, Atlanta's police department is very professional. They deal in metrics. They meet regularly about their targets, about their priorities, about their focus. So I have a great deal of confidence that our officers would also like to invest time in things that really keep our communities safe, and that relieving them of this kind of responsibility actually allows them to do their job more effectively and allows for our law enforcement resources to be used in a way that actually produces benefits for our community as opposed to undermining the future of our young people.
Will this ordinance have an effect on businesses, for instance, hiring?
Well, it has. The effect that it has is that a young person who only has an arrest now doesn't have a drug arrest on their record, doesn't have to report the sort of jail time and so forth. So it does have an effect on the employability of people who receive this kind of a ticket. But it doesn't affect the individual judgment of business owners. There is work that's been done in the city, about checking the box.
Yeah, ban the box has been a big thing for many of the city officials to try to get rid of that so that they've done. I think the city of Atlanta has been a leader on that and not having to ban the box so that people don't get disqualified automatically from a job because they have some kind of record and in most cases very minor infractions like possession of small amounts.
Yes, but it does not. This does not affect decisions that employers make. But many employers in the city of Atlanta have joined the Ban the Box campaign. So we're hopeful that this again, has a good impact for our young people.
How did the ordinance shape the mayor's race, and what do detractors, if any, say about the law?
I will tell you that so the mayor's race this has been a big issue. It's one of those issues that bubbled up. Kwanzaa Hall is a candidate for mayor, and he was the leader who shepherded this through the city council. And it started back in spring, and he met with some resistance, and there was some back and forth among council members, and their concerns were whether or not there was supposed to be brought in by the courts and the police and others, and the differences between what is happening in the state law and the city law, and not to get people this is legal. So it went through city council the first time. It was bounced back to the safety committee to get more discussions between the different departments, and it passed. I guess they were satisfied with the information they got back from this collaboration between the different departments, and it passed with overwhelming and unanimous support. support. On the campaign trail, most of the candidates have said they are in support of them. Most of them feel that the laws are draconian and from a bygone era, and so most of the mayoral candidates are in support. In fact, I can't think of anybody who has come out against it. Vincent Ford has been a strong advocate. Alonzo Hall has been a strong advocate, and I think others have been advocates, but those two stand out in particular.
So I think if it was impacted by the mayor's race, it was impacted because this is something people were hearing from citizens.
Right.
And so it was citizens' voices that helped to move this to the point where it could be successful.
Yeah, and they packed City Hall. Believe me, I've covered City Hall since for about a year now, and they've come out to City Council meetings often, and they're very, very much a very vocal group, and they've made sure that City Council, the mayor, and others heard that this is something that was very important to them.
Now, with this law, is it up to the officer's discretion, or is this the new standard in the city of Atlanta?
Well, this will be something that I believe Chief Shields will make clear that this is the standard.
This is the standard, and this is not something that an officer can elect to do or not to do. Again, that's a lot of education that would have to come from City Hall and come from Chief Shields to talk to officers, to have that conversation, and to say this is what we as a police department stand for, and this is our instructions from the mayor as well as the City Council.
Now, this covers just the Atlanta city limits, or does this also cover the full metropolitan area, such as Decatur, Decatur, and Stone Mountain?
This is only city of Atlanta, so only inside the Atlanta city limits is this the law.
And one other place, Clarkston, which is out in DeKalb County, Clarkston passed a similar measure and similar ordinance last year. So it's in City of Atlanta city limits and in Clarkston city limits. But step out of any one of those, and the procedures go back to whatever those counties or cities have, like a Sandy Springs, and also the state law is different. And obviously, I remiss to say that the federal law is different also. So you've got a lot of jurisdictions that are, and it's somewhat confusing. And part of what we want to do is help you guys to understand, maybe spark a conversation, and to get more information about the fact that there are 3 or 4 or 5 different kind of jurisdictions at work at once, and you have to be very careful about where you are. But the main thing to realize is that it is still not legal.
And so, I mean, the real takeaway from this is the difference that citizen action and citizen engagement can make. ACLU has a position that it should not be illegal to use and possess marijuana for personal use. However, that is not the law in Georgia. In Georgia, it is still illegal. It is still unlawful, even in the city of Atlanta. But the takeaway should be that getting active on this issue, if this is something you care about, access to medical marijuana, which has been shown to be helpful in so many serious conditions. If you're concerned about decriminalization of marijuana, get active on these issues and let your legislators know, let your city council members know, in whatever jurisdiction you are, your county commissioners, because changes can happen. And Atlanta is an example of citizen action that brought about a change. And we hope this is the first step towards many.
And can you talk about where they could come to find out more information about the ACLU of Georgia, and maybe if you all have any information that might help them to understand more? Because I mean, we've given them a 15-20-minute tutorial, but there's a lot more information they can get out there.
So the ACLU, our website is www.acluga.org. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter. So please, follow us on whatever your preferred social media platform is, and we will be updating and providing, our best advice in terms of what these laws mean. But the goal of this was to reduce penalties.
Right.
It is not decriminalization, and so But we are pleased that the penalties have been reduced, but there are still penalties, there are still consequences for marijuana use and possession in the city of Atlanta.
And you can follow us at the AJC and the myajc.com. We will continue to be a leader in talking about this discussion and to try to provide you the best information we get as we get it. So thank you guys for tuning in, and keep coming back. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.